The gun pressed cold against her temple, but Zuri's hands didn't shake as she emptied the register. Her voice stayed steady, calming the sobbing hostess beside her. "Breathe. Just breathe." The armed man screamed orders, but Zuri's words cut through the chaos like a knife through silk, low, soothing, unmistakably familiar. In the corner booth, Kang Min-ho's entire world stopped. That voice. He knew that voice from somewhere buried deep, somewhere that made his chest split open. Their eyes met across the restaurant for one impossible second, and something ancient and devastating clicked into place inside him. He would burn cities to keep her safe. Welcome to Unfold Korean Stories. Please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to comment telling me where you're watching from. The masked gunman swept his weapon across the restaurant, but Zuri remained eerily calm. She'd been a waitress at Azure Moon for 3 months, working double shifts to pay off her mother's medical bills. Tonight should have been routine. It wasn't. Kang Min-ho watched from his booth, every muscle coiled tight. His men flanked the exits, awaiting his signal. As the underground king of Seoul's West District, he controlled everything: money, power, fear. Nothing touched him. Until now. "Everyone on the floor," the robber shouted. Zuri moved with careful precision, guiding the terrified hostess down. Her curvy frame radiated a protective strength that made Min-ho's jaw clench. Who was this woman who didn't fear death? "The safe," the gunman demanded, jamming the pistol toward Zuri. She met his eyes. "It's on a timer. I can't open it." Her voice, God, that voice, slammed into Min-ho like a freight train. His mind raced backward through fragmented memories, searching for the connection he couldn't name but felt in his bones. The gunman grabbed Zuri's arm roughly. Min-ho stood. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Every eye turned to him. 6 feet of lethal elegance in a black suit, Min-ho moved like a predator. His reputation preceded him, ruthless, untouchable, merciless. The city whispered his name in fear. "Let her go." His voice was silk over steel. The gunman's hand trembled. He'd made a fatal mistake robbing this restaurant. This was Min-ho's territory. "I said, let her go." The robber released Zuri and ran. Min-ho's men pursued, but his attention stayed locked on the waitress, now staring at him with wide, cognac-colored eyes. Beautiful, terrified, mesmerizing. "Are you hurt?" Min-ho asked, his tone softer than he'd used in years. Zuri shook her head, dark curls escaping her ponytail. "I'm fine." Liar. Her hands shook now that the danger had passed. Without thinking, Min-ho reached out and steadied them with his own. The contact sent electricity racing up his arms. She pulled away quickly. "Thank you. What's your name?" "Zuri." She wouldn't meet his eyes. Something flickered in her expression. Recognition? Fear? Both. Min-ho's second-in-command, Tae, approached. "Boss, the police." "Handle it." Min-ho never looked away from Zuri. "I want security on this restaurant. 24 hours. Zuri frowned. "That's not necessary." It wasn't a request. Their eyes locked. Tension crackled between them, dangerous and magnetic. Min-ho felt something shift in his chest, something he'd locked away after his parents' murder 15 years ago. Protectiveness. Possessiveness. Need. He left before he did something stupid like demand she quit this job and let him take care of her. But as his car pulled away, Min-ho made a silent vow. He would find out why her voice haunted him, why her face felt like coming home to a place he'd never been. The next morning, Zuri arrived at Azure Moon to find the place swarming with high-end security. Her boss, Mr. Park, looked simultaneously terrified and thrilled. "Mr. Kang's orders," he explained nervously. "We're under his protection now." Zuri's stomach dropped. Kang Min-ho. She'd heard the whispers, knew his reputation. The Mafia boss who controlled half of Seoul's underground. And he touched her hand last night like she was something precious. This was bad. Very bad. She'd come to Seoul to disappear, to escape her past and start over. Getting involved with someone like Min-ho was the last thing she needed. She had enough demons chasing her without adding his world to her shoulders. Zuri, the hostess, Minji, grabbed her arm excitedly. Did you see how he looked at you? Kang Min-ho. Do you know what that means? It means nothing, Zuri said firmly. He was just being protective of his territory. But her traitorous heart raced every time she remembered his dark eyes, the way his deep voice had wrapped around her name like a caress, the way he'd stood up to protect her without hesitation. Stop it, she told herself. Men like him were dangerous. They consumed everything they touched. That evening, a delivery arrived. Dozens of white roses and a simple card. For the woman who doesn't panic. MH. Zuri stared at the flowers, her heart doing something complicated and painful. She should throw them away. She should run. Instead, she pressed the card to her chest and hated herself for wanting more. Min-ho couldn't stop thinking about her. For 3 days, he'd watched the security footage from Azure Moon obsessively, studying the way Zuri moved, talked, smiled at customers. His men thought he'd lost his mind. Maybe he had. He'd built his empire on control, but this woman unraveled him with a glance. Run a background check, he ordered Tae. The file arrived within hours. Zuri Morrison, 26, American father, Korean mother. Moved to Seoul 3 months ago from Los Angeles. Working 2 jobs. No criminal record. Clean. Too clean. Min-ho knew when someone was hiding. He'd spent his life reading people, and Zuri was running from something. The question was what? He showed up at Azure Moon that Friday night, claiming his usual booth. Zuri's steps faltered when she saw him, but she approached with professional grace. Mr. Kang. Welcome back. Her voice remained carefully neutral. Min-ho, he corrected. I'm not Mr. Kang to you. Her eyes flashed with something annoyance? Interest? What can I get you? Have dinner with me. I'm working. After your shift. I'm tired after my shift. Tomorrow then. Zuri set down her notepad with deliberate care. I don't date customers. I'm not asking for a date. Min-ho leaned back, all predatory confidence. I'm asking you to have dinner with me. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. A date implies you have a choice. This is me being polite before I stop being polite. Her jaw dropped. That's incredibly arrogant. That's me being honest. He held her gaze. Have dinner with me, Zuri. Let me get to know the woman brave enough to stare down a gunman. Something flickered across her beautiful face. Vulnerability, longing, fear. Why? Because I can't stop thinking about you. The raw honesty in his voice made her breath catch. Min-ho saw it, the way her pupils dilated, her lips parted. She felt it too, this impossible pull between them. One dinner, she whispered finally. That's all. He smiled, slow and devastating. One dinner. But they both knew it was a lie. Min-ho took her to a private restaurant the following evening, the kind without menus or prices, where chefs prepared masterpieces and discretion was guaranteed. Zuri wore a simple black dress that hugged her curves, and Min-ho spent the first 10 minutes fighting the urge to cover her with his jacket, so no one else could look. You're staring, she said, sipping wine. I'm aware. It's rude. So, is being this beautiful? He'd never been smooth with words, but something about Zuri made honesty spill out. I can't help it. She blushed, and the sight made his chest tighten. You're very direct. I don't have time for games. Life's too short, and I've wasted enough of it already. He leaned forward. Tell me about Los Angeles. Her expression shuddered immediately. Nothing to tell. Why did you leave? Fresh start. From what? Why does it matter? Her tone turned defensive. Min-ho studied her carefully. Because you're scared. And I want to know what scared you badly enough to run across an ocean. Zuri stood abruptly. This was a mistake. I should go. His hand caught her wrist gently. Don't. Please. The word tasted foreign on his tongue. He never begged. I'm sorry. I pushed too hard. She looked at his hand on her wrist, then at his face. Whatever she saw there made her slowly sit back down. I was engaged, she said finally, voice barely above a whisper. He was charming, successful, perfect on paper. But behind closed doors, he was controlling, jealous, eventually violent. Min-ho's blood turned to ice. Did he hurt you? He tried. I left before it got worse. She met his eyes. I don't trust easily anymore. Especially men who want control. I'm not him. Aren't you? You ordered me to have dinner with you. Would you have come if I'd asked nicely? She hesitated.
No.
Then I made the right choice. Min-ho released her wrist, but didn't break eye contact. I won't hurt you, Zuri. I'd rather die. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're brave and kind and beautiful. I know you protect people weaker than you. I know your voice does something to my chest I can't explain.
He paused.
And I know I need to figure out why I feel like I've known you my entire life. Zuri's eyes glistened with unshed tears. This is crazy. Completely insane, he agreed. Stay anyway.
She did.
Over the next 2 weeks, Min-ho courted her with single-minded intensity. Flowers arrived daily at her apartment. Her landlord mysteriously stopped demanding overdue rent. Her mother's medical bills began disappearing. Zuri knew it was him, but when she confronted Min-ho, he simply said, "Let me take care of you. I don't need taking care of." I know. That's why I want to. He showed up at Azure Moon every night, claiming his booth, watching her work with dark, possessive eyes. Other men stopped flirting with her entirely. The message was clear. She was under Kang Min-ho's protection. She was his. Except she wasn't. Not really. Zuri fought the pull between them even as she felt herself falling. Min-ho was everything she'd sworn to avoid. Powerful, controlling, dangerous. But he was also gentle with her, patient, protective in ways that made her feel cherished rather than caged. One night, a drunk customer grabbed Zuri's waist as she passed. She froze, old trauma slamming into her chest. Min-ho was there in seconds, gripping the man's wrist with bruising force. Apologize. The customer paled, recognizing him. I didn't mean. Apologize to her.
Now.
I'm sorry, Miss Sai. Get out. Min-ho's voice could have cut glass. You're banned. Permanently. After the man fled, Min-ho turned to Zuri. Her eyes were wide, chest heaving. He didn't touch her, didn't crowd her, just stood close enough to ground her. Breathe with me, he said softly.
In. Out.
That's it. She followed his rhythm, her panic slowly receding. When she finally looked up, his expression was murderous. Did I handle that wrong? He asked tightly. I wanted to break his arm, but I didn't want to scare you. The confession broke something open inside her. This dangerous man had held back his rage to protect her feelings. You handled it perfectly. His shoulders relaxed fractionally. Come home with me tonight. Min-ho. Not for that. Just let me take care of you. Please. She should say no. She said yes instead. Min-ho's penthouse overlooked the Han River, all floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist luxury. He sat Zuri on the couch, disappeared into the kitchen, and returned with tea. I don't know how to do this, he admitted, sitting beside her. Do what? Be gentle. Be patient. He looked at her with raw vulnerability. I want to claim you, mark you, make sure everyone knows you're mine. But I know that's wrong. I know you need time. Zuri's heart stuttered. You're doing fine. Am I? His hand found hers. Because I lie awake thinking about you. I watch you at the restaurant and imagine what it would feel like to have you look at me the way you look at customers. Happy, relaxed, unguarded. I want that, Zuri. I want all of you. I'm scared, she whispered. Of me. Of this. Of feeling this much. She turned to face him fully. You're a mafia boss, Min-ho. Your world is violence and danger. How can I? I'll keep you safe. Always. His other hand cupped her face. I swear it on my life. That's what terrifies me. What if keeping me safe isn't enough? What if something happens to you? Min-ho's expression softened with understanding. You're worried about losing me. I've already lost too much. He pulled her close, and she let him, burying her face in his chest. He smelled like sandalwood and danger and home. His arms wrapped around her carefully, like she might shatter. "I'm not going anywhere," he murmured into her hair. "You're stuck with me now." She laughed through tears. "You're impossible. And you're mine." The possessiveness should have frightened her. Instead, it made her feel safe, wanted, cherished. They stayed like that for hours, wrapped in each other, neither willing to let go. The next morning, Zuri woke in Min-ho's guest room, tucked under expensive sheets. A note on the nightstand read, "Had business. Stay as long as you want. Breakfast in the kitchen. MH." She smiled despite herself, then froze. Last night had been intimate in ways that had nothing to do with sex. She'd let him in, let herself be vulnerable. That was more dangerous than any physical connection. Panic fluttered in her chest. She needed to leave, create distance, protect herself before she fell too deep. But when she reached the kitchen, she found fresh pastries, fruit, and a full Korean breakfast spread. Her favorite coffee waited in the pot he'd remembered from their dinner date. The thoughtfulness squeezed her heart painfully. A knock at the door made her jump. Tae stood in the hallway, expression neutral. "Miss Morrison. Boss asked me to drive you wherever you need to go." "I can take the subway." Boss insisted. Of course he did. Zuri wanted to be annoyed, but couldn't quite manage it. Min-ho's protectiveness was starting to feel less like control and more like devotion. That afternoon at Azure Moon, a woman appeared at Zuri's station. Elegant, beautiful, with the kind of polished perfection that came from wealth and confidence. "You're Zuri?" the woman asked in flawless Korean. "Can I help you?" "I'm Park Sujin, Min-ho's friend." The pause was deliberate, territorial. "I wanted to meet the woman who's caught his attention." Zuri's stomach nodded. "We're just..." "Don't insult my intelligence. I've known Min-ho for 10 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." Sujin's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Be careful. His world isn't for the faint of heart. Women like you don't survive long in it." "Women like me?"
Soft.
"Ordinary. Breakable." Sujin leaned closer. "He'll ruin you, and then he'll discard you. I've seen it before." She left before Zuri could respond, but the words burrowed deep. Was Sujin right? Was Zuri just a distraction for Min-ho, something that would burn out once the novelty faded? That evening, Min-ho arrived at Azure Moon with flowers and froze when he saw Zuri's expression. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Zuri. Who's Park Sujin?" The question burst out before she could stop it. Min-ho's jaw tightened. "What did she say to you?" "That I'm ordinary. Breakable. That you'll get bored and leave." "She's lying." His voice turned dangerous. "Sujin and I dated years ago, briefly. It meant nothing then, and means less now. She's been trying to rekindle something that never existed." She seemed pretty confident. "I don't care what she seemed. I care about you." Min-ho stepped closer, his intensity burning through her. "You're not ordinary, Zuri. You're extraordinary. You're everything. You barely know me. Then let me know you better. Give me time to prove this is real." Zuri wanted to believe him, but Sujin's words echoed in her mind, feeding old insecurities. "I need space to think." Pain flashed across his face. "How much space?" "I don't know." He nodded slowly, stepped back. "Take what you need."
"But Zuri?"
"I'm not giving up on this. On us." He left the flowers and walked away, and Zuri hated herself for wanting to call him back. For 3 days, Min-ho stayed away, and Zuri felt his absence like a physical ache. The flowers stopped coming. The security remained, but she didn't see him. At night, she lay awake remembering his warmth, his intensity, his promise to protect her. She was falling apart without him. On the 4th day, she showed up at his office building, talked her way past security, and burst into his top-floor suite. Min-ho looked up from his desk, shock and hope warring on his face. "Zuri. I don't want space. I want you." The words tumbled out. "I'm terrified and this is insane, but I can't stop thinking about you. I can't breathe right when you're not around. So, if you meant what you said, if this is real..." He crossed the room in 3 strides and kissed her. The world exploded into sensation. Min-ho's hands cupped her face gently despite the desperation in his kiss. Zuri melted into him, her arms wrapping around his neck, her body pressing close. He tasted like coffee and mint and forever. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Min-ho rested his forehead against hers. "It's real," he whispered. "So real it terrifies me. I've never felt this way about anyone, Zuri. You've ruined me for anyone else." "Good," she said, surprising herself. "Because you've ruined me too." He smiled against her lips. "Stay with me tonight. Really stay, not in the guest room." Her heart hammered. "Min-ho, I just want to hold you. Nothing else unless you want it. I need you close." How could she refuse that raw honesty? Okay. They spent the evening at his penthouse, cooking dinner together, laughing when Min-ho burned the rice, kissing against the kitchen counter until they forgot about food entirely. Everything felt easy, natural, right? Later, in his bedroom, Min-ho held her while they watched the city lights. His fingers traced patterns on her arm, and Zuri felt safer than she had in years. "Tell me about your voice," he said suddenly. She tensed. "What about it? I know it from somewhere. It's been driving me crazy trying to remember." Zuri's heart stopped. This was what she'd been avoiding, the truth she'd buried deep. "Min-ho, you don't have to tell me if you're not ready." His arms tightened protectively. "But eventually I need to know. Because that connection, it means something." She turned in his arms to face him. In the dim light, his face was all sharp angles and shadows. Beautiful. Dangerous. Hers. "When I was 16, I volunteered at a suicide prevention hotline," she said quietly. "One night, I talked to a boy for hours. He'd lost his parents in a gang attack. He wanted to die." Min-ho went completely still. "I convinced him to stay alive.
To fight.
To build something from his pain instead of letting it destroy him." Her voice cracked. "I never knew his name. He never called back. But I've thought about him for 10 years. Wondered if he was okay." "Zuri." Min-ho's voice broke on her name. "That was you. You." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "You were the boy. You saved my life." His hands trembled as they cupped her face. "I was 17, holding a gun to my head, and your voice pulled me back from the edge. You made me promise to survive." "I didn't know. How could you?" He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "But I knew. The moment I heard you speak during the robbery, something in me recognized you. My soul knew before my mind caught up."
Zuri sobbed against his chest.
"I can't believe it's you. It's always been you." Min-ho held her like she might disappear. "You gave me a reason to live, and I built an empire from that promise. Everything I am, everything I've done, it started with you. I thought about you so many times. Wondered if you were happy, safe. I'm here. I'm alive because of you." He pulled back to look at her. "And now I get to spend the rest of my life showing you what that gift meant." The emotion between them was overwhelming, a decade of connection finally clicking into place. When they kissed again, it was with the weight of fate, destiny, the universe conspiring to bring them back together. "Make love to me," Zuri whispered against his lips. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Min-ho worshipped her slowly, reverently, like she was something sacred. He memorized every curve, every sound she made, every place that made her gasp his name. The connection between them was soul deep, overwhelming, perfect. Afterward, wrapped in his arms, Zuri felt complete for the first time in her life. "I love you," Min-ho murmured into her hair. "I've loved you since I was 17 years old, even without knowing your face. My heart knew. I love you too." She kissed his jaw. "This is crazy. The best things are." They fell asleep tangled together, 2 broken pieces finally made whole. Zuri woke before dawn, panic clawing at her throat. Last night had been perfect, too perfect. In her experience, perfect things didn't last. They shattered, leaving scars. She slipped out of bed carefully, gathered her clothes, and left while Min-ho slept. By the time she reached her apartment, tears streamed down her face. This was better.
Cleaner.
Before he realized she wasn't worth the trouble, before his world consumed her, before she fell so deep she'd never recover from losing him. Her phone rang minutes later. Min-ho. She didn't answer. It rang again.
And again.
Finally, a text. Where are you? Talk to me. Please. She turned off her phone. Min-ho stood in his empty bedroom, chest heaving with panic and rage.
She'd left. Run.
After everything, after the truth about their past, after she'd said she loved him, she'd run. Find her, he ordered Tae.
Now.
Boss.
Now.
Within an hour, he stood outside her apartment building, buzzing her unit repeatedly. When she didn't answer, he used every connection he had to reach her landlord, get inside, and climb the stairs 2 at a time. He pounded on her door. Zuri, open up.
Silence.
I know you're in there. I can hear you breathing. Go away, Min-ho. Not happening. We're talking about this. There's nothing to talk about. The hell there isn't. He pressed his forehead against the door. You're scared. I get it. But running doesn't fix anything. It just delays the inevitable. What inevitable?
Us.
Together. Forever. His voice gentled. Please, baby. Let me in. The lock clicked. The door opened. Zuri stood there in yesterday's clothes, eyes red from crying, and Min-ho's heart cracked open. Why did you leave? He asked quietly. Because this won't work. Why not? Because I'm not enough. Your world is dangerous and sophisticated and violent, and I'm just a waitress trying to survive. Eventually, you'll realize you deserve better. Stop. He stepped inside, kicking the door shut. You saved my life, Zuri. You gave me hope when I had none. You made me want to be better, do better, survive. There is no one better than you. There never will be. You don't know that. I do. He cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. I've spent my entire adult life building power and wealth and fear. And none of it meant anything until I found you. You're the only thing that matters. The only person who's ever really seen me. I'm scared, she whispered.
So am I.
This terrifies me. The idea of losing you makes me want to burn the world down. His thumbs wiped away her tears. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you.
Take the risk with me.
Please. Zuri searched his face and found only raw, desperate honesty. This powerful man was breaking himself open for her, offering everything he had. Okay, she breathed. Okay. He kissed her like she was air, and he was drowning. The next few weeks were blissful. Min-ho made good on his promise, showing her off everywhere, holding her hand in public, making it clear she was his. Zuri moved into his penthouse, leaving her apartment behind with no regrets. She kept working at Azure Moon despite his protests, needing the independence. He showed up every night, possessive and proud, watching her with dark eyes full of promise. Life felt perfect. Too perfect. The first threat came on a Monday. Zuri found a note taped to her locker at work. You don't belong in his world. Leave before you get hurt. She showed Min-ho immediately. His expression turned murderous. Soo-jin. You don't know that. I do. She's been making comments, spreading rumors. He pulled Zuri close. I'll handle it. Min-ho, please don't do anything rash. I'm not letting anyone threaten you. He left before she could argue, and Zuri's stomach twisted with worry. The confrontation happened at Soo-jin's gallery opening, Min-ho arriving like a storm. End this now, he told Soo-jin coldly, backing her into a corner away from the crowd. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Leave Zuri alone, or I'll make sure every business partner you have knows about your father's embezzlement scandal. I've kept that quiet for years. Test me and see what happens. Soo-jin's face drained of color. You wouldn't. Try me. His smile was all teeth. She's mine, Soo-jin. Accept it or suffer the consequences. He left her trembling, confident the message had been received. But he was wrong. 2 nights later, Zuri was closing Azure Moon alone when the lights went out. She grabbed her phone, but before she could call Min-ho, hands seized her from behind. "Don't scream," a man's voice hissed. "Cooperate and you won't get hurt." Zuri's training kicked in. She stomped on his instep, elbowed his ribs, and ran. But 2 more men appeared, blocking the exits. Her heart hammered as they closed in. Kang Min-ho's girlfriend, one sneered. "You're worth a fortune."
Kidnappers.
Not Soo-jin, business rivals trying to hurt Min-ho through her. Zuri grabbed a knife from the kitchen, backing against the wall. "Stay back." They laughed. The front door exploded inward. Min-ho stood there, gun drawn, eyes wild with fury. Behind him, a dozen of his men poured in. "Touch her and die," Min-ho growled. The kidnappers froze. They'd underestimated his response time, the GPS tracker he'd secretly placed in Zuri's bracelet, the extent of his network. "Drop the knife, sweetheart," Min-ho said softly to Zuri, never taking his eyes off the men. "I've got you."
She did.
He shot forward, and the room erupted into controlled chaos. His men subdued the kidnappers with brutal efficiency while Min-ho reached Zuri, pulling her into his arms. "Are you hurt?"
No,
"Did they touch you?" "Min-ho, I'm fine." He kissed her hard, then pulled back to examine every inch of her. "We're leaving."
Now.
"What about? Tae will handle them." Min-ho's voice was ice. "I need to get you somewhere safe before I lose my mind." Back at the penthouse, Min-ho paced like a caged predator while Zuri sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket despite not being cold. "This is my fault," he said finally. "I made you a target. You also saved me." "I shouldn't have had to. You could have been killed, Zuri. Because of me." He ran his hands through his hair. "Maybe Soo-jin was right. Maybe you're safer without me." Zuri stood, closing the distance between them. "Don't you dare." "What?" "Don't you dare try to push me away to protect me. I'm not leaving. I won't let you make that choice for me. You almost died. But I didn't. Because you came for me." She grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. "I'm not scared of your world, Min-ho. I'm scared of losing you. There's a difference." "Zuri. I love you. All of you. The darkness, the danger, the devotion. I'm not going anywhere." He crushed her against him, burying his face in her hair. "I can't lose you. I won't survive it. You won't have to." They held each other until the trembling stopped, until fear transformed into determination. "Marry me," Min-ho said suddenly. Zuri pulled back. "What?" "Marry me. Be my wife. Let me protect you properly, legally, permanently." He took her hands. "I don't have a ring, and this isn't romantic, but I don't care. I need you bound to me in every way possible. Say yes." Her heart expanded until it hurt.
Yes.
1,000 times yes. He kissed her until they couldn't breathe, until the world narrowed to just them, until nothing else mattered. The following week moved in a blur. Min-ho didn't just propose again properly. With a diamond that could pay off a small country's debt, he began systematically eliminating every threat to Zuri's safety. The kidnappers vanished into the justice system with sentences that would keep them locked away for decades. Rival gangs received clear messages. Zuri was untouchable. Soo-jin's gallery mysteriously lost several major investors, and she left Seoul quietly. "You're terrifying when you want to be," Zuri told him one evening, watching him work. "Only to people who threaten what's mine." He pulled her onto his lap. "How do you feel about a small wedding? Just us, Tae as witness, and a courthouse." "I thought Mafia bosses had huge, extravagant weddings." "I don't want extravagant. I want you legally mine as soon as possible." His hands spanned her waist possessively. "Is that okay?" "It's perfect." They married the following Friday. Zuri wore a simple white dress. Min-ho wore a black suit. The ceremony took 10 minutes, but when he slid the ring onto her finger and said, "You're mine now, Mrs. Kang," Zuri felt the weight of forever settle over her heart. The reception was dinner at their favorite private restaurant, just the 2 of them, talking and laughing until late. Min-ho couldn't stop touching her, Her hand, her face, her hair, like he needed constant confirmation she was real. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That I'd given up on happiness," he said honestly. "After my parents died, I thought I'd spend my life alone, focused on power and revenge. Then you came back into my life and changed everything." "I didn't do anything. You did everything. You saved me twice, once when I was 17 and again 3 months ago when you didn't panic during a robbery." He kissed her knuckles. "Thank you for choosing me despite everything I am. Thank you for seeing me despite everything I'm not. You're everything, Zuri. Don't ever doubt that." They went home that night as husband and wife, and Min-ho made love to her with the reverence of a man worshipping his miracle. 3 months into their marriage, Zuri woke up nauseous. She chalked it up to stress. Min-ho had been negotiating a difficult business merger, and she'd been working overtime at the restaurant despite his protests. But when the nausea continued for a week, accompanied by exhaustion and weird cravings, she bought a pregnancy test on a whim. 2 lines appeared. Zuri stared at the stick, emotions crashing through her.
Fear, joy, panic, love.
She was carrying Min-ho's baby. Their baby. She told him that evening, heart hammering. He'd just come home from a meeting, loosening his tie, and she simply held out the test without preamble. Min-ho froze.
Stared at the test.
Looked at her. Looked at the test again. "You're pregnant." His voice cracked. "Yes. With my baby? Whose else would it be?" He crossed the room in 2 strides, dropped to his knees, and pressed his face against her stomach. His shoulders shook. "Min-ho." Zuri ran her fingers through his hair, worried. "Are you okay?" "I'm going to be a father." The words came out choked with emotion. "You're giving me a family." Relief flooded through her. "You're happy?" "Happy." He looked up, and his eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Zuri, you've given me everything I never knew I needed. First yourself, now this. I don't deserve you. You deserve the world. I only need you." He stood, cupping her face. "Marry me again." She laughed. "We're already married." "I know. But I want to do it properly this time. Big wedding, all our friends, declaration to the world that you're mine, and I'm yours forever. What do you say?" How could she refuse when he looked at her like she'd hung the moon? "Okay." "Really? Really? But Min-ho? I'm going to be enormous in a few months." "You'll be beautiful. You're always beautiful." He kissed her softly, carefully, like she might break. "I love you. I love you too." He dropped to his knees again, pressing kisses to her still flat stomach. "And I love you, little one. Your mother saved my life, and now I get to spend the rest of it protecting both of you. You're already the luckiest baby in the world." Zuri cried happy tears, running her fingers through his hair, feeling more loved than she'd ever imagined possible. The vow renewal ceremony happened 6 months later in a private garden, cherry blossoms drifting through the air like snow. Zuri was 7 months pregnant, glowing and radiant in a custom gown that accommodated her beautiful round belly. Min-ho cried when he saw her walking down the aisle, not caring who witnessed his tears. His composed, dangerous exterior shattered completely in the face of this woman who'd given him everything. "You're stunning," he whispered when she reached him. "I'm huge. You're perfect." He placed a hand on her stomach, feeling their daughter kick. "Both of you." They exchanged new vows, promising again to love, protect, and cherish each other through everything. When the officiant said, "You may kiss your wife," Min-ho did so with a tenderness that made everyone watching tear up. The reception was intimate, close friends, chosen family, people who'd supported them through chaos and danger. Tae gave a speech about how he'd never seen his boss happy until Zuri appeared, how she'd transformed a cold, ruthless man into someone capable of joy. During their first dance, Min-ho held Zuri carefully, one hand on her lower back, the other protectively spanning her belly. "Thank you," he murmured. "For what?" "For not panicking during that robbery. For recognizing me even when I didn't recognize you. For staying despite the danger. For loving me despite everything." He kissed her forehead. For giving me a future I thought I'd never have. Thank you for protecting me, for being patient, for showing me what real love looks like." She rested her head against his chest. "For keeping that promise you made when you were 17, to survive, to fight, to build something beautiful from pain. I kept that promise because of you. I'll keep every promise I make you for the rest of my life." They swayed together as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, their daughter moving between them like a secret promise of tomorrow. 2 months later, at 3 in the morning, Zuri woke Min-ho with a gentle shake. "It's time." He was out of bed instantly, alert despite the hour. The hospital? The hospital. The drive was a blur. Min-ho held her hand through every contraction, his face pale but determined. When they finally wheeled her into delivery, he refused to leave her side. "I'm scared," Zuri admitted between contractions. "I'm here. I've got you. You're the strongest person I know." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "You saved my life, remember? You can do anything." She laughed despite the pain. "Your pillow talk needs work. I'll practice later." Hours passed in a haze of pain, encouragement, and desperate hand-holding. Finally, at dawn, their daughter entered the world with a fierce cry that made both parents sob with relief and joy. "She's perfect," the nurse said, placing the tiny, squirming bundle in Zuri's arms. Min-ho stared at his daughter with absolute wonder. "She has your eyes. And your hair. She's so small. She's strong. Listen to those lungs." Zuri smiled through tears. "What should we name her?" "Grace," Min-ho said immediately. "Because that's what you gave me. Amazing grace that saved my life and brought me home." "Grace Kang." Zuri tested the name. "It's perfect." Min-ho kissed his wife, then gently kissed his daughter's forehead. "Hello, Grace. I'm your father, and I promise to protect you and your mother with everything I have. You're my miracle baby, born from the impossible love between your mother and me." Grace made a small sound, as if in agreement. 6 weeks later, Zuri found Min-ho in Grace's nursery at 2 a.m., holding their sleeping daughter against his bare chest, rocking slowly in the chair by the window. "Can't sleep?" she whispered. "I keep thinking about that night when I was 17, he said quietly. "When I had the gun, ready to end everything. If I'd made a different choice, I wouldn't have this. You, Grace, this life. It would all be gone." Zuri moved to sit on the arm of the chair, wrapping her arm around his shoulders. "But you didn't make that choice. You survived. Because of you. Because you were strong enough to hear me. Strong enough to fight." She kissed his temple. "Look what you built from that strength. An empire. A family. Everything." Min-ho looked down at Grace, then up at Zuri, his eyes suspiciously bright. "I love you so much it hurts sometimes." "Good. Because you're stuck with us forever." She smiled. "Come back to bed. Grace will be up in an hour demanding food. Give me a minute. I just want to hold her a little longer." Zuri understood. This man who commanded fear and respect, who'd built an empire from ashes, who'd never backed down from a fight, he was terrified of how much he loved his daughter. Terrified of how much he had to lose. She returned to bed alone, listening to Min-ho's soft voice through the baby monitor as he told Grace stories about her mother's bravery, about the night they met, about the voice that pulled him back from darkness. Their story wasn't perfect. It was born from trauma and danger, built on a foundation of old wounds and impossible coincidences. But it was theirs, beautiful and broken and real. 5 years later, Grace started kindergarten with her father holding her hand the entire way to the classroom. Min-ho had retired from the active Mafia business, focusing instead on legitimate enterprises, though his reputation still commanded respect across Seoul. Zuri managed 3 restaurants now, still working despite having enough money to never work again. She needed the independence, the purpose, and Min-ho supported her completely. They'd built a life most people only dreamed of, filled with love, laughter, occasional chaos, and the kind of devotion that movies romanticized but rarely captured correctly. On their 6th wedding anniversary, Min-ho took Zuri back to Azure Moon, now under new ownership, but still operating. They sat in his old booth, holding hands across the table. "Do you remember the first night I came here after the robbery?" he asked. "You demanded I have dinner with you. And you called me arrogant. You were arrogant." "I was terrified," he corrected. "I'd found the woman who saved my life and didn't know how to tell her, how to make her see what she meant to me." Zuri smiled. "I was terrified too. You were this dangerous, powerful man who looked at me like I was precious. You were. You are." He lifted her hand to his lips. "Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for not giving up when I ran. I could never give up on you. Not then, not now, not ever." He pulled out a small velvet box. "Close your eyes." "Min-ho, you didn't have to. Just trust me." She closed her eyes, felt him remove her wedding ring, then slide something onto her finger. When she looked, her breath caught. A new ring sat beside her wedding band, eternity band covered in diamonds. "One stone for every day I've loved you," he said. "Starting from the night you convinced a broken 17-year-old boy to live. I had it made special." Tears spilled down Zuri's cheeks. "It's beautiful. You're beautiful. Inside and out. The mother of my child, the love of my life, the woman who saved me in every way a person can be saved." He stood, pulling her up and into his arms. "Dance with me." "There's no music." "We don't need music." They swayed together in the empty booth, wrapped in each other and the weight of their impossible, beautiful love story. Outside, Seoul glittered with possibilities. Their daughter was safe at home with Tae, probably conning him into extra dessert. Their future stretched ahead, bright and promising. "I love you," Zuri whispered. "I love you more," Min-ho countered. "Impossible. Then we'll argue about it for the next 50 years.
Deal."
They kissed, and the world disappeared the way it always did when they came together. Violent, beautiful, perfect. The waitress who didn't panic during a robbery and the Mafia boss who recognized her voice had built something neither thought possible, a love that conquered trauma, danger, and fate itself. And they lived it every single day. The end. From desperation to devotion, from danger to forever. This was their story. A voice in the dark that became a lighthouse. A moment of recognition that changed everything. Love born from impossible coincidences and sustained through unwavering choice. Min-ho never forgot the 17-year-old boy holding a gun, brought back from the edge by a stranger's compassion. Zuri never forgot the fear of trusting again, made brave by a man who proved devotion through action, not words. Together, they built an empire not of crime but of family, loyalty, protection, and a love so fierce it redefined everything they thought possible. Grace grew up knowing her parents' story. The robbery, the recognition, the journey from broken to whole. She inherited her father's strength and her mother's compassion, watching them love each other with an intensity that never dimmed. Some nights, Min-ho still held Zuri close and whispered, "Thank you for saving me." And she'd whisper back, "Thank you for letting me." Because that was the real miracle. Not that they found each other, but that they chose each other every single day despite the danger, the fear, the impossible odds. Their love was dark romance perfected, dangerous yet safe, possessive yet freeing, intense yet tender. It was everything and nothing like the stories promised, better because it was real. And it all started with a voice in the darkness, a robbery, and a woman who didn't panic. Please like, share, and subscribe.